We're better at apologizing about things that, even if we feel like we've said or done things that we didn't deliberately mean. Like say it's made me feel a certain type of way and my husband is not aware of that, he still finds a way to still apologize about it, because at the end of the day it's made me feel a certain type of way. So apologizing about the situation and matter is almost like acknowledging that it's happened and just finding a way to move forward.
It doesn't matter if it's your fault
or not, because it's had an impact. Yeah.
Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Tolu Akiemi, and today I have a very special guest with me today, and we are discussing a very important topic, something that you can relate to. Every woman can relate to it. It's communication in stressful times with your, with your significant other, with your husband, with your partner. When you transition from being a wife to being a mom and all of that. She's an amazing mom. She's an amazing wife. She's an amazing woman, first of all. And her name is Fiyin. It's nice to have you here on this show. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really glad and honored to be here. So thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. I'm so honored, super honored to have you here today. It's nice to have someone to discuss this kind of issues with. And thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So today we are discussing communication in stressful times with your partner. I know that you've been married for quite some time now. You are a mom, you have a little one, and let's just discuss, what has the experience been like for you?
So in terms of like mothering, so my little, not so little, she's a toddler now. I have a daughter who is 18 months old. And I guess at just different stages, each stage is different. So she's at that stage right now where she knows who is who. She knows who mom is, she knows who dad is. So she's got the attachment, positive attachment. And she's also trying to test boundaries. So it requires a lot of patience at this stage, but also like almost like redirection, like this is not right, okay, but letting them also like push the boundaries and learning from it.
Yeah.
But at the very beginning, of course, when she was born, that like the first, I would say 6 weeks was probably like one of the hardest weeks ever. Just because of that sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
So what we had arrangement wise was the first 2 weeks we had like help from families, what in advance blocked out the schedules for us to help us out with childcare. So they would help with sort of like night shifts and some day shifts and here and there. And afterwards it was pretty much mainly us, would have families to help in at the weekends, and which was nice. But it meant that during the weekday, my husband was working then, and he didn't take his paternity leave on time. Like it's kind of like, because he's self-employed, so he had sort of like chosen to do his paternity leave like 4 weeks after Fumidara was born.
Okay.
So what we then did was, the initial weeks after family had helped with night shifts, I was the one doing the night shifts. So I'll do day shifts and do a bit of night shifts, because it would obviously go to work the next day and everything. So the supervision was just not nice. That stage was not. So I think in terms of like trying to just communicate little things, you just get a bit like upset with each other. I remember there was one day we had gone for the newborn photo shoot, and we came back so exhausted, and something had fallen on the floor, and that's when you just know that these two people are sleep deprived. And something fell on the floor, just something simple, and I was like, no, you pick it up. It was like, no, you pick it up. And then it just became a back and forth of moving, and we had like a 3 weeks old baby at that point. But you could just tell we were just so irritated because of the lack of sleep. And I remember my cousin just coming in and be like, you all just go to bed. I'm literally taking over. You're going to sleep. Please go to sleep. So I feel like the 6 weeks were the toughest. And of course, because on the mum who is recovering physically from childbirth, it was the stage where you have a lot of uterus contractions coming back. You're trying to adjust to the production of milk flow. It's a season where you might have enough milk at that stage, because my birth was just very traumatic. I didn't produce my milk on time. I'd lost loads of iron in the blood, so I couldn't get milk production on time. So all those things just really made it really difficult at that stage. And I feel like the sweet spot for us was more of like, 3 months onwards, where we just kind of like just got the hang of it.
And settling to
and she's not really, obviously at that stage you begin to have colic and stuff, but you sort of know what, like, she's waking up at a certain time, she's feeding regularly at a certain time. And then you also just sort of learn to balance. And I think from that 3 months old onwards, my husband had also, what he would do was, I would do the last milk feed for the night, let's say around 4 a.m. And then the next feed might be around 6 a.m. So he would take over from there. So he would take baby downstairs so that I didn't have to wake up when she was ready for her next milk feed. So he would take her downstairs and even have his first meeting of the day with her. So I would then take over from like 10 a.m., 11 a.m. So that way I started having like longer sleep. So again, that came with communication. And I think that's why I felt like the 3 months was like the sort of nicest spot to be.
I think I can relate to some of those challenges, because when I had my son too, I had to recover physically. He was back in the hospital because he had jaundice, and so he had to be there for a couple of days, and I was recovering at the same time. My emotions were everywhere. I was crying. It felt like everybody just goes back home with their baby. Now my baby is back in the hospital. It was quite tough, but I'm happy because I had family as well, because they were just there to take care of baby, take care of even me myself. It was good, but you get stressed. You don't get to sleep enough. I wasn't producing milk immediately as well, so we had to do some bottle feeding before I got into my body adjusted properly. So I think I can relate with that.
Oh, that's so great. I didn't know about that baby.
Okay, so that's it. The next question will be, what are the challenges you've faced so far? If we dive deep into it, challenges and how you're able to communicate with your husband, because from the things you said, it's obvious that eventually you're able to switch into certain roles. He will take over the early morning feeds while you're able to sleep longer. How did you get to that point? Was it always like that? How did you get into? Did you have to maybe have some conflict before you got to that point of switching into roles? How did you navigate the challenges you faced?
Yeah, I think first of all, we just had to identify our strength and weakness. And I think, to be honest,
that's very important.
Fair game to my husband. He had already told me before baby was born that, look here, my strength is not in night shifts. And to be honest, if you know my husband very well from a young age, he doesn't joke with his sleep. So he's always been the kind of guy that, when he's like, his body clock is telling him to go to bed, it just shuts down. That's it. So I honestly had peace about that before she was born. I almost had to come into, even though I kept saying now, I was like, the only thing is I'm going to expect you to take over on the weekends. And I was like, okay, sure, why not? Like, if you would give me the weekdays, so I think just identifying that I was going to be the one to do most of the night shifts, coming to terms with that. But the actual reality was that when baby was now here, and my husband was like, I think you're so good with the night shifts. So on the weekends, it wasn't taking over. So it was like kind of like pushing it a bit. And that was when I got like really frustrated. I was like, that's so unfair. Like I said, some weekends, I would have like maybe my cousin over. She's so lovely. She would just pop in random and be like, you know what, I'm looking at her like, now you guys just go chill. Like literally, that was her. She's still like that. Even she did that yesterday as well. So I feel like that really was helpful, but it was still always like saying, actually, we had this conversation. It's not fair that I'm having to do all or majority of the night shifts. I think I said to him, it would be nice for me to just have a full night rest once a week. So what I did was, it was like, okay. So he did it one night, and then baby was right next to him in the cot, and she woke up crying to have her feed. This guy did not wake up. I woke up. So at that point, I was just like, this is not gonna work. So I was like, no, I actually was like, should I just go take over the feed? So I woke him up, and then you could just tell genuinely that it was like in a deep sleep. Like, it was so confused. It didn't even know baby existed. It looked, it was like, oh, and like, you could tell it was so shaken by the fact that she was crying. And I think at that moment, I just had to accept, like, this guy is not doing it deliberately. He's just genuinely not good at this night shift thing. So, and I just afterwards just again took on the night shift, or even on the weekends. But that was when he began to ensure that by the time I took over, by the time he took over the morning feeds, like by 4, like I said, by 4 I do the last feed, and I might not take over till like 11 a.m. So for me, that became like a better compromise, because then it meant that I had a longer time. And like I said, by 6 a.m. we were taking baby downstairs, so I wasn't waking up because baby was crying or anything. I was having my shower, get to just relax and just feel fresh again. So I think that was a primary bone of contention this first initial months. It was just like that initial adjustment. Like the sleep thing was a major thing initially.
I think I love what you mentioned about recognizing your strengths. Because a lot of times when you get married, in fact, before you get married, there are conversations you have. And you say, oh, this is what I can do, this is what I can do. It's almost like you have it all planned out. But by the time you get married, you realize that things start changing. Because seasons will change, your needs will change. What you said you couldn't do before, you can do them now. And understanding from the perspective of your spouse. Take for instance, when my son was still very young, like he was still a baby, my husband was going to work. He wasn't working from home. He would literally have to go and then come back. So I just realized that before I was going out to work as well, but then I was at home with the baby, and over the weekend we'll just do all the cleaning together. So I felt like I have baby with me now. He goes all the way, comes back. I'm not seeing him for long hours. I'm with the little one, so I take care of him. I tried to communicate during the day. There was a day I said, I think this baby doesn't like me, because he was just crying and I didn't know what to do. But I just figured that during the day, each day, like we have 5 days in the week, I can decide to do this aspect of the cleaning today. Another day handle the laundry, another day handle this. And I realized that by the weekend, I have more time to spend with my husband than for us to start cleaning. And then everybody's just working. So I was able to just try to adjust to that, understand from his perspective it's going to work. When he comes back, he needs to rest as well. He does his best to care for the baby. And it's just like what you said, you eventually saw that this thing about sleeping at night is genuine. Honestly, it's genuine. If you don't have those conversations, or if you're not thinking deep to observe, to see, because both of you eventually are on the same team, you're not on different teams, and then you could have decided to just be angry, shouting like, oh, no, you have to, it's your turn. But understanding each other, like, okay, this is genuine. I open up about my this is how I am, please. It's not like I'm not making an effort, but you see that it's genuine, and you step in. We just have to complement each other.
Absolutely.
So I really
so even when you mentioned things like cleaning, so for us, even the food cooking, like, so we had like a caterer that would do the batch cooking for us. In that season, so we had someone who was doing the batch cooking, so we just freeze it up. So that freed up time for me having to worry about other things apart from caring for the baby. We had like a cleaner that would come around regularly to clean for us. So we had those things in place, to take the pressure off us. And we just in that season, we really managed our expectations. The way we saw external help was, if it was there, fantastic. But we really saw each other as the major team players. Like, caring for this child, we knew was our responsibility. So whoever was going to come along to say, oh, I'm going to be there to help for this weekend or next month, or it was almost like supplementary help that we accepted, but we weren't like almost making it an expectation of a thing. Like, so, and that really helped us in that season.
It's good. You manage your expectations, because sometimes you get to a point where you feel like, this person should be here. But sometimes you expect your parents to be around too. I feel like, oh, they should be here, they should be doing this. I see people ask questions on, Instagram. My mother-in-law is just here, she's not doing anything, it's not work on me and all of that. But when you see that this thing is primarily me.
Yeah.
And any help I'm getting, I'm privileged to have.
Yeah.
You know, you think about it differently. And I absolutely agree with you. How do you ensure that communication is respectful? How do you ensure that it's respectful?
Yeah.
It's open, it's respectful between you and your partner?
Yeah. I think, again, because myself and my husband, we know our communication like triggers.
Okay.
We understand we understand the tone of the language really matters, the way it's the delivery matters.
Yeah.
So as much as we want to communicate something very important, it's also important for us to communicate it in a tone that is not derogatory and condescending, even if we feel hurt. So I feel like even the season in preparation for motherhood, before we even had our baby, we had like certain soft seasons before that, and that really helped us as a couple to really just develop healthy communication. So by the time, for example, even I as a mom, I wasn't like, let's say I would wake up and I wasn't feeling great, I knew how to not bottle it up and still say it with my husband. And I just always found that just talking and saying things in a good tone was always well received, just so that my husband is aware. And also we made time in terms of like, we'll do like intentional check-ins on each other.
Okay.
So it might be on the weekend where we actually say, how you feeling about this, how you feeling about that. Maybe it could be during our walks. We would have walks in that season as well.
With the baby? Yeah,
with the baby. Normally, can't leave her anywhere. We didn't really have date nights in those early, time period. We're back to date nights now, which is very helpful because that's how we now primarily, in the last 3 months or so, been communicating major important things. So we do weekly date. I wouldn't say date nights, we call it date lunches because, like I said, we can't, childcare is limited to like maybe during the time of the day.
Okay.
So we use it on the days where maybe we have a nanny around or we have her in nursery, so we'll go for a lunch date. So that way we actually talk through things, we dialogue through things, and we actually say things that, for example, if we're introducing a topic matter, we're saying this is how it's affected me in this way. And we also are, I would say we're better at apologizing about things that, even if we feel like we've said or done things that we didn't deliberately mean, like say it's made me feel a certain type of way and my husband is not aware of that, he still finds a way to still apologize about it because at the end of the day, it's made me feel a certain type of way. So apologizing about the situation and matter is almost like acknowledging that it's happened and just finding a way to move forward.
It doesn't matter if it's your fault
or not, because it's had an impact.
Yes.
So we also take times and we also like, what we do is we also, apart from talking and dialoguing, we also like are tuned into couples that are having successful marriages, either physically or online, where we actually, for example, on our anniversary when we went away, we watched a video of Priscilla Sher and her husband talking about, their journey in marriage and stuff. So we take, obviously the rights of guidance, but we also look at people that have gone ahead and what they're doing. And also around us, the couples that we can glean into, we try and like, let's say every 3 months spend time together with them and just dialogue. We're not talking about marriage in particular, but we're also just relating them and also observing how they have had marriages in long term, and we just ask them questions jokingly around certain topics. So we do that as well. And individually, we also have like ways where we have we try and have our own individual relationships with people, where marriage is about partnership between your husband and wife, but we also feel like it's also important to feel fulfilled in other aspects, that you have your own community individually. So I have like my friends, he has his own friends that he can just talk about anything that has to do with being a guy. So it's so important that beyond like talking about just parenting and marriage, like you just have other things that makes you feel fulfilled and brings you joy. And sometimes just having dialogues with just your girlfriends where you can catch up about any silly thing, just even takes your mind off every other thing, and it just almost like flows into motherhood, it flows into marriage, and just shows that identity is not just in marriage and motherhood, it's beyond that. So yeah,
I really love the point you raised when you talked about like having your own girlfriends. You know, if you're talking to a girl, you both can sit down. In fact, you might not be together, I might be on the phone. My friend and I might be in the kitchen, she's taking care of her baby, and we are just talking. We're just spending time. I think it helps a lot that you have a life outside of the marriage. It's still together, but then it helps to keep you healthy. And I think that is very important for ladies as well. You know, have a life. When I say have a life, it's like just have something outside, because the truth is we have needs. Your husband has his needs. There are needs you would never be able to meet because you're not a man and you may not understand the depths of it. You are a woman, you have needs that your husband cannot meet. But when you're with your girlfriends, you see that you just chat about anything and everything. You just talking, it feels like you're letting go of a lot of weight, you become lighter. So it's very important. Have people that you can really flow with, talk to. Not that, oh, I'm married now, I'm a mom now, all my friends, bye for now till we meet. Otherwise you'll be lonely.
And I think that was very helpful in the season I was in, because even I had trickles like of friends that I would visit from, you know, friends like that I've had over 10 years that would just come in and check in up on me. Like some of them might be passing through Peterborough, like, I'm stopping by your house. They ain't been at my house before, but you know, it just showed like, you know, it wasn't just about that season, it's how much we've poured into each other beyond then. So that also helped in that season where I also could see familiar faces and just talk about anything. Like my friend came from Canada, and I remember that was one of the visits that was so crucial because our sister had given birth, but she made it her first stop to come to me, to my house, after just landing on our flight the night before she went to see her sister. And that was a huge deal because last time I'd seen her was for our wedding because she was my bridesmaid. But it just showed that like the connection was just beyond, it's just, she knows that I'm a mom now, but we also like connect so well as friends that those relationships just really helped me through that season as well. So I think it's just important to have dialogues with, you know, healthy, if you have healthy girlfriends, healthy, even matriarchs, you know, people that are mentors. There's this, you know, I went through a season where when I was like maybe the second half of motherhood, and I was going through a few things, and I actually could just speak to someone who was like a mentor, like, you know, 10 years ago that I met again, and I could just pick up the phone on a random ceremony and just pour out to her over the phone. And all I just needed to do was just pour out to someone who was older and wiser, and that was it. Once I spoke to her, since that day, I've never like looked back and like not felt like so lightweight. Like that was all. I just needed a safe space to pour into. So it just showed that sometimes it's not even just about dialoguing with your spouses alone. It's just having conversations with other people that might just really understand where you're at, because she has been through my season way ahead of time. So, you know, she has children that's gone through university now. One is in that university, but you know, she has a wealth of wisdom and experience. So yeah, it's very important to have this relationship as well.
Very, very important. And in fact, I agree with everything you said. You just need that space. You need people, healthy people that you know they are not competitors. They see you as someone, you know, you can collaborate together, you can speak together. There's no tension. Healthy people, it's very important. I like how you were talking about you and your husband. You have date lunches, you have things outside, and that's the next question. It's about self-care. How do you communicate self-care? Because few things about self-care we've talked about is having people that you can talk to. Self-care is also speaking to your spouse, having time to really talk, and also different things could mean self-care. So how do you communicate your need to have like some space? Because it can be tricky sometimes. You love your baby, you love your husband, but you might just need some space.
Yeah, I think as moms, we probably struggle with this the most because we obviously because we've carried a child for like 10 months, and we just feel like we're the primary caregiver, obviously apart from our husband, or if whoever God has put in your life close to you at that time, in that season.
Yeah.
We just feel like it's our responsibility to always be engaging with that child.
Yeah.
So self-care becomes a thing where moms just think, you know what, if I can just get a nap today, that's self-care for me. And I think for a long time, I think not a long time to be honest, I think for the first 3 months, I don't really think I communicated much of self-care. But I think my husband was just the one that just suggested to me, it was just like, I think you should try going to the gym just because it will help you mentally unload. And I didn't think about that, but that was one of the best things I did, if not the best thing I did in that season. I've never been to the gym prior to giving birth. I wasn't a gym person, but when I would walk to the gym, because the gym was like 15 minutes from my house, or I could drive 5 minutes. But that season, because it was like June, or when I started going to the gym, was summer. So I would find that going to the gym, I would just be singing songs, like just processing so many thoughts on the way. And it wasn't like deliberate, it wasn't pre-planned.
Yeah.
So my self-care came from initiation from my husband saying, do you want to try that? And I would find, getting to the gym, like I wasn't like pushed to do anything I didn't want to do. I just did things that just give me a push. But I think it's helping me with my physical recovery because I was still in pain in so many different places as a woman post-child birth, that because I began to heal physically, it helped me mentally as well. And I was, like I said, I was processing things mentally, walking to the gym. I was healing physically. It helped me because in the long term, I could begin to do things that I couldn't even do. I didn't think I would be able to do until a certain time period faster. So I became happier about just generally, just everything else.
Yeah.
And then my self-care, I started prioritizing things like my hair, just even having my hair, booking appointments to have my hair washed. I could do it at home,
you can
but just treating myself to again, I didn't have to communicate these things because I think my husband just knew that it was something that was important to me. So I would say, I want to get my hair washed. She's like, oh, not a biggie. You want to treat your hair? Of course. I want to go do my nails. So again, those things I prioritized when I was pregnant. So again, it wasn't a new thing to him. I just had to communicate it. And I think sometimes he was just always waiting for me to communicate it because again, I always felt like I had to be with my baby because I didn't want to, I felt like the days were off from work, maybe you should just chill.
Yeah.
But for him, it was just waiting for me to just say something. I think, and then as a woman, I just realized that when I see my husband with a new haircut, I'm like, this guy is prioritizing his self-care, of course. Why can't I do the same for myself? So I think I just began to just say, I want to get my hair treatment done. I want to do my nails and the gym. Those were the 3 things that really helped me because my hair was healthy, because that was a time where those initial months where the postpartum hair loss always meant to be high, but I had really healthy hair. Even the hair salon couldn't believe it that I just had a baby because it was just so healthy, because again, that came from just prioritizing self-care and hair treatments and stuff. So yeah, I felt like sometimes I was the one delaying communication and it almost had to be initiated to say, do you want to do this?
Yeah.
Do you want to try that? And that really, it helped.
It just shows that you're with someone who cares about you. And a lot of times we just need to communicate it. If you're not in touch with yourself, how would you know what you want? How would you be able to communicate that? Okay, I think this is what I want. I think as women, we need to start paying attention to our feelings, paying attention to your emotions, what's going on inside of you, paying attention to those things, because at the end of the day, if you're able to process them well, it makes you healthier, it makes you happier, self-care could mean anything to different people. It could mean anything to different people. For me, it can just be dress up, just dress and look nice and I'm happy. It's just that. Or maybe I just feel like, I just want to visit a friend, or I just want to place a call to someone. It could just mean different things to different people at different times. It might just be something little. I just want to eat a particular thing, and I'm done eating. I'm just happy. Yes, I think I feel I'm okay. It's no matter how small it is. Don't trivialize little things that could make you feel happy and all of that. So from our conversations today, we've been talking about communication. Stressful times will always come. These issues will always be there. And the truth is, as we go older, as our family grows bigger, there'll be more and more responsibilities that you have to face. There's work that you have to deal with. There is your baby you have to deal with. You want them to grow in a healthy environment. Your spouse is there. They have needs. And their needs are changing. Even your needs are changing. So communication is so important. And I feel like marriage is the worst place to keep quiet. By nature, I'm an introvert. But I know that in marriage, I have to open my mouth, because how would he know? If it's an outsider, I could not really say much. But with someone that I know that we're inside, we're in this together, I need to be able to open up and speak up and, make it respectful. I like what you were talking about, the fact that you've gone through tough times and you're able to communicate in a way that you watch your tone. Because there are lots of people that I've met people who will say things in the most demeaning tone and add please. I feel, what's the significance of the please that you added to this thing? What you said to me or what you said to this person is horrible. You might just be trying to communicate something, but the tone you use makes people defensive. It sort of builds a wall because you said something. I think we have to pay attention to how we speak to people, especially your spouse, how you speak to them, because a lot of people can't take what they give out.
I think it's a learning curve generally, but I think it's important to be self-aware, but it also comes from being ready to receive feedback from, and I think that's why I said it's great to have relationship with our partners, but also do we have relationships with other people healthily that they can communicate with us about our shortcomings as well. Because sometimes if we rely on just communicating with our spouse alone, the way we communicate with our spouse might be different from how we communicate with our friends.
Which is very true.
But I think all in all, and I loved what you said even about self-care. Like, one thing I always make sure, I think I made sure, was that when my husband would take over for me care in the morning, I would make sure I have my shower in the mornings. And when I had my shower in the mornings, I would dress nicely. It was a deliberate thing. I did it. I even bought outfits. I remember I went shopping with my cousin, and I remember the stores we went to, and we joked about it, because even those the t-shirts we bought, one of they were like different positive affirmations in them, and I said, this is for the days where it feels tough. And then we're literally cracking up. We're laughing about it, but she was just like, this is going to be your postpartum outfits, right? I'm like, So I bought outfits intentionally planned for the first 4 months post-birth that were affirmation outfits for me, but they were also glam outfits that I would wear, and I would always remind myself. One of them said positivity. One of them, I can't remember what it said. Like, I had outfits pre-planned based on, I was like, even if I'm going through it, it's not going to go through me. Motherhood is not going to go through me. And I had to be realistic, because I knew that, because my mom is late, and that's what I meant by managing expectation. Like, I feel like one of the few people I could just say, I could just call to be like, you know what, you have no choice but to be here. It's my mom. And she's obviously she's not here. So I had to manage my expectation in terms of that was, that season, receiving any help, which is what came to about, my point about managing expectation. Any help I had was going to be a bonus. And I think it was later on down the line that we actually began to say, you know what, this is a time where we can start searching for professional help. My husband was beginning to say to me, what do you want to do next season? If you made our eyes like over 6 months. And my husband said, I think it was when she was like 4 months, he actually said to me, out of self-care, and I just forgot that point, said, I think she should start going to nursery around 6 months? And I said, no. I said, no way, she's way too young. Why would she get to nursery? I was like, yeah, just 2 days a week. I think it will give you time off just to relax. And I was like, no. And I was so anti the nursery, but we'd obviously already, before she was born again, gone for nursery viewing. So we already narrowed down the nursery, but I didn't think that would go that early. Like, would actually enroll her at that early. I thought it was gonna be like 9 months and stuff. But he actually said, I think just having the day, not doing anything, would really be helpful.
Yeah.
And I remember the first day, I thought I would cry. But I didn't cry. I was just like, this is actually nice. So I didn't even think about that when you talk about self-care, because obviously now I'm just so used to it. She's 18 months old. She's been there for a year and she loves it. But at 6 months, it was something that I thought, like, even my husband bringing it up, we felt like, how can you? That shows because you're not the one that is really looking after her. How can you bring that up as a point? But it just showed that he was also trying to think ahead about me not losing myself to motherhood. And one of the quotes my husband would kept saying to me was that motherhood is your assignment, it's not your purpose. He kept reiterating it to me every day.
It's your assignment.
He said it's your assignment, but it's not your purpose. It's not like, it's like you have other things you have to also do. You also have to achieve. So 6 months, she was going to nursery 2 days a week, and she's fine. And she so when I look at her now and people say, oh, she's so social, I can see the benefits of that, because I just thought I would lose my attachment to her by taking her there. But she was able to bond with all the babies. One of our best friends, even we were talking about it, we were joking because my cousin was around. He said, like, who's your best friend? She said her best friend, and they've been in the same baby room.
Oh,
and one of them even comes to our church. I remember when they saw each other at church, they were literally, the sermon was going on and they were playing with each other on the floor. So I could listen to the sermon and they were like playing and sharing toys. And when I think about that, it just warms my heart that I made that step there. And it's part of self-care where, of course, I know that it can be expensive, but if the option is there, there's nothing to feel guilty about.
Yeah.
There's nothing to feel guilty about. So yeah, just take on that help. And then of course, when she was around 9 months, that's when we began to think, okay, professionally, who can come over to our house, qualified childcare person that can look after her at home? Because then my husband was like, the opportunity to do a master's came up, and my husband was like, you're gonna do it. And I was like, again, I said, no. I was like, no. I was like, no, this is like, I have this year and everything. But guess what? I submitted my thesis like 2 months ago. And I did it. It didn't feel like I could do it because I felt like I had to focus on motherhood during my maternity leave. But I was able to focus on motherhood. I was able to be a good wife. I was able to, it's not easy. It just meant that I had to burn the late night candles like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. But I was able to still do that by the grace of God. By the grace of God, because I then released all those things on my plate to God and I said, God, I need you to help me. How do I do it? Yeah. And I can say, I think my husband can say, because my husband will be like, I don't even know how you're doing it. Because I don't think my marriage suffered in that process.
Imagine.
Yeah, I don't think my mothering suffered in that. It just meant, like I said, like after she goes to bed, I have to sacrifice the late night candle. So that was the only thing I had to do. But it all just shows that as women, we don't have to stop dreaming. We have to still think about, what do I want to do beyond when the child is 1 year old or so, and beyond my maternity leave. Still dream, still
have a purpose,
still pursue what you feel like you're led to, and surround yourself with either your spouse or your sibling or whoever you can be accountable to and would really pour into you and affirm you to bring in those dreams to fruition. So
let's talk about God. You mentioned everything on your plate and giving it to God.
Yeah.
It shows that you're not doing it in your own strength.
No.
Can you share a little bit about your faith and how that has helped you through? Because you've done a lot. within that period of having a baby. She's just 18 months.
Yeah.
The period of having a baby, you've done your master's, not part of your life suffered.
Yeah.
It just meant more sacrifices.
Yeah.
Can you share more about that and how, just share more about your faith and how it has helped?
I think this just comes back to having our individual relationship with God. Like, those things, I didn't do it because I needed to prove a point to anyone. I did it because it had been written. When
you must talk about that.
Because that's why I said, like, my husband said, mother is not yours. It's an assignment, it's not your purpose.
Yeah.
Because he knew that there were other assignments of I have other things I'm called to, right?
Yeah.
And this is just one of it. And I think for me, it's just being mindful. If you have I have like a Samsung Notes page where over the years I've written down things that God has spoken to me, people have spoken to me over my life, right? And sometimes once in a while I go back and read it, just remind myself. And the thing is, you can't really have a full picture of everything.
Yeah.
But I believe that the steps we take every day would lead us somewhere. So you'll never really understand the full picture of what a sentence or whatever is, you might have received from God. It might not really make sense until years to come, because it really takes life, going through life, and just doing and just being obedient to God in the everyday things to take you there. So I think for me, it was in that season where I was also being sensitive to, I was just thinking, before I had this baby, what was in my heart? What was in my heart? What has God spoken to me personally? What has God spoken to others through me? And my passion. And I remember just thinking about those things in all. So I was still looking out for opportunities around me. And because in that season, it wasn't also the season where I could wake up every day and pray.
Yeah.
Because I had a baby at hand. So I was listening to a lot of worship songs. I was listening to a lot of people that are in the faith, that were mothers, listening to preachings, and also just trusting God that the prayers I'd prayed beforehand was carrying me through. So I think I was just sensitive to the leading of the Holy Spirit more than anything in that season. So as a person, it's easy to feel guilty to say, oh, I'm not waking up to pray, so maybe I'm not hearing from God clearly. I knew that my relationship with God was deeper than that. To think, okay, because I'm not praying every day as a mom, I'm failing in that. So I also had peace coming into that. So what I then did was, like I said, if my husband suggested something, I might think about it. I might say no, but not shut it down, but just think about it, or just have it at the back end and use faith. And I think I used the word faith. It might sound like a very cliche thing, but it was literally faith that carried me through those things, because most of the things I entered into, I just trusted God to help me. And it didn't mean that there were times where I didn't question if I should have entered into them or if I should have started them. But I knew that based on the way I was still getting understanding in my work, or the opportunities that were coming my way, I knew that it was beyond me.
Yeah.
So I knew that it was still God opening doors. It was still God carrying me. It was still God giving me the right supervisor that was so patient, very clear and instructive, that if she gave one instruction, it could carry me through the next 3 months.
Oh, wow.
God gave me that kind of supervisor that even for a 4-month, 5-month period, she didn't even have to reach out to me, because I think God it's almost like God was speaking equally in both ways. So there was a time I needed a break, and God used her to give me a break without even her communicating with me about the break. And then when she then reached out to me again to say, oh, where are we with the work was done within 2 months, because the next instruction she gave me was clear and concise about what I needed to get through to get to the finish line. So she gave me bullet pointed instructions after that break that answered everything I needed to get through to that finish line, and she didn't even know it.
That's amazing.
So when I finished on time, even she had to say, you might want to hold on to this assignment, because if you submit it 2 months early, it's gonna look like, how did you do it? But that was God really pouring out equally to the people that He has sent my way, and to even me myself, giving me the strength to just push through. And like, even in terms of even going back to work, because I'm self-employed, or mainly self-employed. I was mainly self-employed before. It was the masters I was doing, or the things I'd done before motherhood.
Yeah.
The courses over the years that people were just like, people in my profession were like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing these things if you're not planning to go this way? Or to find a job in this route is so hard. Why are you using your money to accrue all the skills? Because getting a job is the hard bit.
Yeah.
That season, when my child was 9 months old, the job that came along it was like a download profile of everything I've been doing. So when it came out, I remember sending it to my husband, and he said, "This is you." And I said, "I know, and I'm scared." Because it doesn't make sense.
And you were saying something like just obeying God every step of the way that leads you to
That's why I had to just say that, because I think I would be lying that's why I said in that season it wasn't like I'm praying, so that you'll know that it's not by strength. The Bible says it's not by His power, it's not by power, it's not by might, but by my spirit, says the Lord. It's by the Holy Spirit. Are we really listening to the instructions of the Holy Spirit on the everyday things? And I remember it came along, and I remember it came along not because I was looking for a job. I'm the kind of person that would always, like, maybe once every month go on the job market and just be like, I want to know what my profession field is saying in terms of earnings, in terms of job availability. That way it lets me know what the field is looking like.
Yeah.
And I remember I went on a lunch date. Again, this was my friends. Went to lunch date with a friend. We meet up, like, let's say every once in 4 months kind of thing.
Okay.
And she was just talking, when a friend is speaking to you and affirming you.
Yeah.
And she's like, you can da-da-da-da-da-da. You can da-da-da-da-da-da. And we just started talking almost like futuristically in that conversation. And then it was in that conversation that I said, I've actually not looked at the job market for a while, blah, blah, blah. And I think it was after the conversation I went home, looked at it, and that was when I saw the job. And the job had been advertised for maybe about 3-4 weeks at that point.
So
I think there was only 2 or 3 weeks left of it. So I had to then start the application and everything. When I had the interview, I remember the head of department and the manager were like, almost like, yeah, we saw your CV, we were like, this is like copy and paste of what we need, kind of like thing, right? And one of the accreditations at that point that I was even going to submit in April was in the area of the job they really wanted.
Okay.
But I already started it like 3 years ago.
Oh wow.
So it was just about timing, where I'd started it, but they needed someone who could do the role. So because the role was they call it, there's a name for it when you're about to acquire the skill.
In view
or something like that. So on my CV it says in view.
Yeah. And
application, obviously, it says in view completion by April, and I was having this interview in January, and so the job was going to start in March. So for them, they were like,
that's it,
perfect. So for me, it was a miracle, because I didn't even think, like I said, people were saying, why are you getting all these things? Because getting the job is a hard part.
Yeah.
But getting the job was the easy part, because I was the only person they interviewed that they felt like even matched what they needed. So you can think about what people are saying to you, but what is God saying to you? Sometimes we let people, what people are saying about the situation of our fields or things, to really speak to what we want to pursue or what we want to go into. But what has God said to you? Because it's not about the now, it's about the future. So for me, it's been fantastic, because then by the time for me that I was 1, I was starting this job. I felt so fulfilled, because the days I go to nursery, I'm going to work. And, I have, like, now we increase our nursery day to 1 more day, like 3 days a week. So 2 days a week I go to work. And the 3rd day, I just use it as my rest day. So I have for 2 days a week. So for me, I feel fulfilled all around, not just as a mom, as a wife, but even as a daughter or as a sister to my siblings or as a friend. But even just in the
life,
I feel peace. And I'm in that season where my faith, I'm in the season where this year I had like a more of a spiritual encounter, which really, again, it came during my master's season, where that was when I even had the fervor and the strength to begin to work till like 3, 4 a.m., 5 a.m. and I'll go to work, like sleep for 2 hours, go to work and everything. But that encounter came in that season where it was poured on, and so it wasn't a case of like I was just going through things like in isolation. It was all mixed and merged. It was all coming together.
It's not like just one session. You can see that spirituality, or that thing you said, the encounter you had, it wasn't because you had time. It wasn't because there was just time. It was in the midst of a lot. So in the midst of things going on, God is still there. In the midst of having the right relationships, like I said, I had a lunch with a friend that affirmed me, and I was obviously affirming her. We're talking about things and almost like declaring what we want, like in the future, but also just talking generally. And that was when I even had the reminder to even look on the market. That came. So it came from having a dialogue with someone outside of my house. So you have to make sacrifices in seasons. Still, even that season where sometimes you think it's all about you and the child, but there's some relationships that you're called into, and God has called you to, that you have to make sacrifices for. And even like I said, my supervisor, I feel I might not be able to say to her that God sent you to me, but even I've said it to my husband many times. I've been honest, this woman, God sent her to me. Like, honestly, I couldn't have asked for someone so sweet and patient, but so clear and concise. So clear and concise. And just different relationship. In that time, I was able to do my ministry training with church as well. And that was when I was about 7-8 months old. I started that and finished that. So, because I had wanted to do ministry training for a long time. And then also the opportunity to do it came up in the season of my maternity leave. And I could have said, you know what, this is a lot. I'm tired.
But you know what? I was like, I'm here. Like, so I feel like I feel like I'm in the season of consecration. That's where I feel like I am right now in my faith, because you asked about, faith and everything. I'm in the season of my consecration. So I'm very mindful about where I spend my time, who I spend my time with, what I say, what I think. But I'm also mindful of obedience. So what God is also saying to me, am I obeying it? So that's where I'm at right now in my faith.
Thank you so much for sharing. Before we end this session, what are your final words to ladies who might just watch this video at any season, struggling with one thing or the other? What's your final word to ladies?
It all doesn't last forever. Like, whatever you're going through, is one of the things I struggled with, or sometimes I think I'm coming out of the struggle by the grace of God, because again, it's part of releasing it to God. I think that's what ministry training has helped me to do, to be able to always release these back to God. Like, whatever I struggle with, always saying, I dispartner with this, and I invite the Holy Spirit to take charge. So, and I think it's helped me realize that thing, it's not about self, it's about, obviously I'm not sure if the person is a person of faith or whoever is listening to is a person of faith, but I can speak from my perspective as a child of God, that this is what has helped me, just releasing it back to God, and just realizing that our emotional pain, our physical pain, our mental pain or struggles are not going to be forever. God is processing you for a reason. And it's all for a purpose. And it just always doesn't make sense, because whoever enjoys, I don't think I've heard of or met anyone that enjoys pain.
No.
Pain always feels like, almost like it wants to sink you, like you can't get through it. You can't get out of it. That's the feeling, like can't get out of it. And I want you to know that you will get out of it and you will get through it. But if you're not even a child of God, speaking to either, I believe, I don't think there's anything wrong with therapy or counseling, someone that can counsel or, encourage you and affirm you. The words we receive in that season also really matters. Whether receiving the right music in our ears, the right words from the right people that deliver the positive messages, the right circle, even if it means changing your circle, if you don't have people that can speak life into you. So begin to think about those things, but try and remember that it's not going to last forever. And you will come out stronger. And that season will happen to be one of those seasons where you'll be like, did I actually go through that?
Yeah. You look back and
you'll be like, yeah. So that's how I feel about, because I'm answering this question based on how I've felt in those moments that I've gone through really, really tough situations. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on this show. Thank you for everything you said.
Thank you.
Even I myself have gotten the wisdom I need from that. Thank you so much. Hopefully we'll come back next time. Yeah.
Of course.
Thank you.
And thank you for what you do, because I've always enjoyed your vlogs.
Thank you so much. All right, so we see you next time. This is Whole Women. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and then we'll see you some other time. Bye for now.
Thank you.